grab a second level difficulty TheraBand. And you're also going to want to grab a couple towels because you are going to sweat during this one. Sit, make sure that your feet are a little bit out so that when you squeeze your glutes to do a bridge, you're not having your knees go over your toes. So squeeze everything up, sit back down, and you're just going to roll forward. When you roll forward, just warm up your spine and push with your feet down into the floor. And squeeze the glute here into tabletop. Roll down and push your feet right into the floor, squeezing your glutes. So we're really working the glutes here. We're working on stability. We're working on balance of the pelvis. And what better way to work on this balance? To do it sitting at first, because when you're sitting, you're forced to be as square as possible. So warming up in this position is great. Don't forget to push your heels into the floor, really squeeze up. Now I was a dancer here, so my flexibility for my lower back may be a little bit more than you, but the goal is to get straight across. Try to squeeze up, hold here, hold, keep squeezing, squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. Really try to almost think of pinching a penny between your cheeks. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. And recover back down. Now let's work on that core. So you want to think someone's about to punch you in the stomach as you're lifting. So your body and your hips are not moving. That's how tight you're holding your core as you're lifting. You can use your arms on either side of your hips to help give you extra support. But even ideally, you would be able to do this without having that extra support of your hands on either sides of your hip. This is known as a seated march. Now we're going to graduate into squats, really warming up the full leg now. So you're going to lean forward as you squeeze the glutes, press through the middle part of your foot, and push your body up. And when you go back down, you need to watch this. You want to unlock the hips and the knees at the same time. So you're going to push your hips back as if you're trying to close a door and bend your knees at the same time, making sure the weight is in the middle of their feet and squeezing your hips back up. You don't want to thrust your hips forward. You just want to come back to a neutral. Make sure you're centered in your feet. Turn your toes out if you need to and push back up. So I'm showing you at a different angle here. You want to keep up, push your hips back as if you're trying to close a door. Bend your knees at the same time, hover about an inch off the chair, and push back into the floor. And continue to do this, just an inch off, and try to press off. Now the reason I want you to go a little bit slower after I showed you a couple faster versions is because I really want you to feel exactly where your weight is, and your foot should be in the middle. As you're hovering an inch off the chair, do you feel your quads and your hamstrings contracting? Do you feel your glutes contracting? Do you feel your core contracting? Push back the door, unlock the hips, unlock the knees. Hover an inch off the chair if you can. Your weight should be in the middle of your feet. And squeeze your glutes to push you back up. You should be pressing your feet as if you're trying to push away the floor. Sit back, bend your knees. Remember, try to close that door, hover an inch off the chair, and squeeze everything back up the way you went down. Unlock the hips and knees, sit back, hover an inch, and again I ask you, where is your weight distributed on your feet? Is it too far out to the edge, too far in, too much on your heel, too much on your toes? Make sure your weight is in the middle as best you can. Your weight should stay in the middle of your foot the entire time. Push away the floor as you squeeze up. And lock those hips and knees at the same time. And squeeze everything back up. We're going to do this one more time, so make sure this is a good one. and push away the floor. Shake everything out. Now let's grab the band. We're going to switch things up here. To place it in the bottom of both your feet, you're going to spread your feet out just over hip width and cross the bands at first, because this is just going to make it easier for you to grab. So when you grab the middle, you are distributing. You don't have to tie anything, and you're going to make sure everything's going to stay secure. So when you sit up here, we're going to work a little bit on deadlifts. So the principles here are similar. We want to unlock the hips and knees at the same time and squeeze everything up. So the chair there for me in the back is just there for support if I need to sit down. But again, I'm not sitting down, I'm just hovering off and I'm squeezing up. So now I just added resistance. So at this point, if you're still a little shaky from the last exercise, pause the video, get a drink, walk around your house a little bit until your muscles don't feel so much like jello. And keep your core nice and tight. And squeeze up. Unlock those hips and knees at the same time. Slowly go down. And push the floor away from you. So now we're also working on a pulling exercise. We just did a push exercise for our legs, and now we're doing a pull exercise with our legs because we're pulling the resistance of that elastic band. Ask yourself, where's your weight in your foot? Is it right in the middle of both your feet? Are you unlocking your hips and knees at the same time and trying to close the door behind you, that imaginary door, with your hips? Are you keeping your core nice and tight? Are you keeping your spine? So do you see how my head keeps in the alignment of my spine? It's almost like I have a pull from the back of my head to my tailbone that keeps my back completely straight. So I'm just kind of untwisting the elastic band here. We're going to tie it now around our knees. Doesn't really matter how you do it, just make a pretty bow and tie it to the point where both your knees can touch even. If you want even a more difficulty, if you don't want it as much of a difficulty, have your knees open a little bit when you're tying it, like I showed you earlier. So just warming up the knees here, we're going to be doing this motion. So you're going to want to hang off the chair a little bit. Heels will be together, and now we're using our glutes again to squeeze and open our knees. So this is just a little bit of a warm-up to prepare this area to do what we're about to do on the floor to really work the gluteus medius muscle. So I'll just do a few more here. Try to bring blood flow to those glutes. And we're going to pulse out for 10. Really squeeze. Now we're going to hold for 10. And recover. Let's get onto the floor. Move the chair out of the way. And same thing. Make sure it's nice and tight around. Now our heels are going to be in line with our glutes when our knees are bent at a 90. We're going to be up onto our elbow, and this is the motion we're going to do. We're going to lift our leg and push off with the opposite. So we're going to push and open. So this is like a stage 3 clam here. So we're working both glute meds at the same time and really trying to target those muscles specifically on a more difficult level. You guys did level 1 and the beginner level, and now we're on to an intermediate, more difficult. So this requires more core strength. This requires more glute activation, more demand. And again, if you need a break, just pause the video, walk around the house, shake your legs out a little bit, get some water, do whatever you got to do. Now hold this here. Squeeze, 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 and back down. Now you can bend your knee like this or have it straight out for a little bit more difficulty. I'm choosing to keep my leg nice and straight here, and you'll notice my toes will be pointed a little bit downward. You can do this as well, and I would suggest it. And we're just gonna pump here for 10, and now hold for 10. We're gonna slowly lower for 5. Great, fantastic. So heels together here, and now we're gonna squeeze our glutes. So same thing we did in a chair, we are now doing on the floor. So really squeeze those areas that I'm just showing with my hands here. Those are the areas that you should feel really contracting and maybe even potentially starting to burn. So we just worked both areas again. Now we're targeting them a little bit more, but this is just to help to pump out any excess kind of buildup of pressure, because that one exercise we were doing before is quite intense. So it's just a way to keep things moving, keep things targeting, keep us actively recovering. Now pump that and hold. And slowly recover back. So let's roll onto our other side. Up onto the elbow, squeeze the glutes, make sure our heels are right in line with our tailbones. And we're going to squeeze up. So same thing, but on the other side. So try to keep your core nice and tight. It's a great core workout as well. We don't want to be twisting our body. We want to keep it nice and square. And the only thing that's working primarily in terms of this movement is the glute muscles. So we're going to do a few more. Keep squeezing. Remember, your core is held tight as if someone's about to punch you in the stomach. And you're also squeezing your pelvic floor as if you're trying to interrupt the flow of urination. That is the thing about the core a lot of people forget to engage. And we're going to hold this here. Hold, squeeze, 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 and slowly lower. We'll keep our knees straight unless you want to bend it. Have the toes fall a little bit towards the floor, and really feel the side of that leg really working and squeezing. A few more here before we pulse. And now hold. So really squeeze, really try to keep that leg exactly where it is. Don't let it come down too prematurely. Lift, 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 lift. Now slowly control the leg down. Excellent. So we're going to work on also glute bridges, and then again at the end working on that glute med. So really try to squeeze those glutes the entire time. You're also squeezing your gluteus maximus muscle as you're working your gluteus medius muscle as well. This is also, again, another great core exercise. So when we're talking about pelvic stabilization, we're talking about the core because that's above the pelvis. We're talking about the glutes because that's behind. We're talking about the stretching out the hip flexors so it's not pulling you so much forward. And now pulse here. Pulse, pulse, pulse. Really wake up those muscles at the end. Hold it, hold, hold, hold. Don't let the elastic band pull your knees together. And slowly recover your knees in. Slowly lower your hips towards the floor. Awesome. Now we're going to take it up a notch. One leg at a time. So your single leg stance. Squeezing the glutes, squeezing the core, and holding up. So we don't want our back to be arched. We want our glutes to hold our back in a neutral position. And we don't want our heels to be too up towards the ceiling because we do want to engage the core more. So we want to just straighten out the knee from that bent position. We want to focus on, again, squeezing that glute. You have to constantly say these things in your head. I know if you guys watch many videos of mine in the past, I constantly repeat myself. And it's because these are the things you need to have going through your head over and over and over again to make sure you are contracting the same. So see, just straighten out the knee and then lift. So you're pressing through the heel and the midfoot of your foot when you are doing these exercises. I want you to repeat all those things in your head. Tight core, pelvic floor tight, squeeze those glutes, and control the movement. I want you to control these movements. I don't want you to just do the number that we're doing here. If you are not doing it properly and you are feeling it more in your hamstring or more in your calf or more in your lower back, you should not be. You should be feeling all the contraction in the glute primarily. So we'll just finish off with this. So instead of your heels being together now, they're a little bit spaced apart and we're still squeezing, doing a last little bit of a wake-up call to those gluteus medius muscles. Hold it out. Really feel them contract. And pulse it here. Prepare to do another glute bridge. So squeeze those glutes and you're going to throw your knees to the side and let them slowly come inward. Out to the side, slowly come inward. So fast out, slowly back towards the center. Fast out, slowly back towards the center. And repeat this, squeezing your glutes the entire time. Tight core, pelvic floor. And last one, slowly control back in and slowly lower the hips. Now we're going to stand and make a tube and place it around the midfoot of one of our feet. We're going to do both sides here. We're going to work a little bit on lunges. So same kind of single leg here. So now let's back up a little bit. When you are lunging, you're not putting your foot in front of you. You're not putting it too far out to the side. It is straight forward. A lot of people get these confused. And when you bend down, you're going directly down, okay? So you're trying not to put your chest too far forward and you're trying not to arch your back and put your chest too far back. Stay nice and aligned and squeeze the glutes. Press through the heel and midfoot and press up. So again, we're doing a pulling exercise for single leg. We were just doing a bunch of push and then a little bit of a pull with our glute med, but now we want to work again with that pulling exercise, single leg with the lunges and trying to pull with the resistance of that TheraBand. Control here. See how my knees are both 90-90 when I'm bending. Before we switch sides, we're going to now work on a little bit of good mornings, almost like a little bit of Romanian deadlifts here. So feet just about hip width apart, and we're going to slowly bend forward and squeeze everything back up. So slowly bend forward and squeeze everything back up. So I'm putting a bend in my knees, my back is staying completely straight and straight as I come back up. Slowly lower. This is a glute exercise in back. If you have any pain with this at all, skip this exercise and move on to the next. But this is a great exercise for back strength, core strength, glute strength, and posterior chain strength of the back of our legs, hamstrings, calf. Again, the weight of your foot is where? In the middle. Good job. Slowly lower and squeeze back up. And squeeze those glutes. Now again, I'm not arching my back when I come up. I'm standing nice and tall. Now let's switch sides. So again, we're stepping right directly forward, shoulders square, leg back so both the knees are 90-90. Your chest is staying upright. Your chest is not falling forward and your chest is not going back. push through that middle part of the foot. So the weight should be distributed right between both your legs. Tight core, pelvic floor. Push through those feet. Weight in the middle, chest up. And recover. The exercise we're going to do next is the last part of our strengthening aspect of this program today. Just to mentally prepare you, we're doing single leg squats. So sit on that chair, leg out, squeeze everything up. So try to balance. If you need to reset yourself, like I just lost my balance here, make sure your core is nice and tight if you lost your balance. That's typically one of the reasons why. So squeeze everything up and squeeze down. So same principles here. We're unlocking our hip and our knee at the same time. If this is too difficult for you, just do a double leg squat. The only reason why we're doing single is so you have options to increase the difficulty once you have adapted to the program and your muscles are getting stronger and stronger. And squeeze your glutes, press through the floor. So the principles are the same. This will be our last one, so make it good on this side and press up. Shake your legs out a little bit. Prepare yourself to work on the opposite leg. And if you did both legs, well, we're just going to do another set. So squeeze down and control. So we want to unlock the hips and knees at the same time, shut the door behind us, and press up through the middle of the foot. So really work the entire time. We're working on balance here. We're working on our core strength. We're working on the controlling of our legs, our knees, our glutes. We're working on keeping our hips balanced. We're not letting our hips fall. Really squeeze those glutes. And shake it out. Let's grab a foam roller if you have it. If you do not have that, you're just going to roll up a towel to about the width of that foam roller. So lie on your back, do a glute bridge, and slide the foam roller or towel underneath you, under your tailbone. So now stretch out whatever side you want to stretch first. Bring your knee towards your chest. Make sure you're grabbing behind your knee. Now if it's too much of a stretch, you can slightly bend your knee or stretch it out to get a complete stretch. Just feel the stretch right in front of your hip with the leg that is straightened out. Now you want to breathe into this. With every exhale, the stretch is becoming easier. It's becoming less painful. And you can feel your lower back release. A lot of times this hip flexor muscle that attaches into the front of the lower spine, to the lumbar spine, can be so tight it can compress the lower back, and that can lead to back pain, as well as pelvic instability and imbalance. A lot of the time the glute muscles are weak and the hip flexor is overactive. So switch sides and rest there. That is why in this exercise program, we are stretching the overactive, shortened muscle, the hip flexor, and strengthening the glutes. And the reason why we need to do this exact sequence typically is because a lot of people sit all day. They sit at work, we sit in our cars driving, we sit to eat, we sit, we sit, we sit. So that hip flexor that we're stretching out right now becomes shortened because our knees are usually at a 90-90 and our glutes are stretched out and become weak. Slowly lower. Bend the other knee. Squeeze the glutes. Slide the tube back from under you. And let's work on a little bit of rotation at our mid-back. So stack the right foot on, and we're going to twist to the left. We're going to look to the right. So we're doing a complete spinal rotation. Try to relax the arms completely. You are not using your arms to rotate you. You are just getting the movement from your hips. A lot of the time, this movement of the spine, as I was saying earlier, is compromised. It becomes stiff. When we walk and do our movements, we need to have movements at these segments. They're specifically called thoracic spine 9 through 12. And basically, the significance of that is when we're swinging our arms as we're walking, we need to have that rotation right in our mid-back to make our walk more efficient, to take pressure off of our lower back and our hips and our SI joints, so that the muscles that need to be strong are strong for the right reasons and not overactive just to try to stabilize and therefore create other problems. Slowly recover, and let's switch sides. Left on top of your right, twist to the right, look to the left with your head. Make sure your upper body is completely relaxed. The goal here is to get both your feet on the ground. At first, you may not be able to, but with time and practice and effort, with doing this 3 times a week, you'll get there. Breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth. With every exhale, this exercise and stretch becomes easier and easier, and you feel your feet falling closer and closer towards the floor. Now slowly recover back down and roll onto your side. Now onto your knees, and let's just work the spine in the other range, flexion and extension. So curve up, and you're going to curve looking towards the ceiling. And curve your back up, pressing it towards the ceiling. And now your head and your glutes will be pressed towards the ceiling. So just repeat this cat and camel movement, trying to bend and extend your spine in either direction, really making sure you're working each vertebra and you're really trying to get that spine moving. So push your shoulder blades away, really try to stretch everything out as you're tucking your chin towards your pelvic bone, and squeeze your shoulder blades down and stick your butt out as you look up towards the ceiling. That is a trick. So squeeze everything, tuck your chin towards your pelvis, press your shoulder blades away. Now squeeze your shoulder blades together, look up towards the ceiling and stick out your glutes. And tuck. And extend. And tuck. Good. Now let's finish with downward dog. Stretch out all those muscles that we were just working on in the back. So just help to reduce a little bit of soreness that we'll feel the next day. So if you're not used to doing this type of work, you will and may experience what's called DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. You might not feel it tomorrow, but you could feel it the next day. And it's typical for this to last anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. It's because you've had little micro tearing of the muscles, and because of that increase in strength, you may feel a little bit sore. So I want to thank you for giving this video a try. If you do this 3 times a week, the strength that you'll have around your pelvis and the stability around your pelvis will be a lot more. It will help to decrease lower back pain. It will help to decrease knee pain and even ankle pain, because if you have a strong core and a strong pelvis and it's all stable, then that means ultimately the rest of your body is working a lot more efficiently. If you know anybody in your life who would benefit from this video, just like you know you are, please tag them in this video or share this video with them. And don't forget to subscribe, because if you have any suggestions or requests of videos for me to release in the future, you can leave that in the comments below. You'll definitely want to subscribe, because once you do, then you'll be notified of any new video that I release in the future. Thank you for all your support.